The darkening evening sky of Buckhead offered Sarah Voss, no serenity. She had just closed a major business deal, but a strange anxiety settled over her as she drove her luxury sedan toward the Cypress Manor. This house was her fortress, bought with her own relentless effort long before she met her husband, Julian Vance. Sarah glided the sedan into the large garage. The presence of an unfamiliar beat-up older sedan, parked crookedly in one corner, immediately raised a red flag. Julian hadn't mentioned guests. She entered the magnificent house. The air was heavy, permeated with the strong, unfamiliar scent of a cheap, overpowering perfume, mixed with the aroma of beef stew, Julian's favorite. Then she saw her. Lena Voss, Sarah's stepsister, stood in the kitchen. Lena was wearing Sarah's crimson velvet smoking jacket, an expensive garment Sarah reserved exclusively for Julian. Lena slowly turned, a mocking smile twisting her brightly painted red lips. "Oh, Sarah, sister, you're home already," Lena drawled, her voice saccharine. "Julian will be down soon. I was starving, so I was fixing his favorite dish." Just then, Julian Vance bounded down the stairs, his eyes locking onto Lena. He wrapped his arms around her from behind and kissed her tenderly on the cheek. "Julian, your wife is getting mad. She's telling me not to wear her clothes," Lena complained, leaning into him sickeningly. Only then did Julian turn to Sarah. His gaze was icy, full of contempt. "What's your problem, Sarah? You come home and start screaming? Lena just borrowed it. You're unbelievably stingy." Sarah felt a crushing realization. Her husband, the man she had loved and uplifted, was defending his mistress, her own stepsister, right in front of her. "What in God's name are you doing?" Sarah yelled, pointing at Lena. "This is my stepsister, and this is my house." "Your house?" Julian sneered. "It's our house, and Lena is going to live with us." "No, I will never allow that Jezebel to live in my house," Sarah shouted. "Watch your mouth," Julian snapped, his face flushed. "You should come to your senses. Lena and I are going to get married. She will be my second wife. If you can't accept that, get out of this house right now." Sarah's heart splintered. Tears threatened to spill, but she held them back. She would not cry in front of these two traitors. She took a deep breath, looked at Julian, looked at Lena, and a faint, cold smile touched her lips. "Fine," she said, her voice terrifyingly calm. "I'll go." Julian and Lena burst into triumphant laughter, convinced she had surrendered. "I'm glad you're being reasonable," Julian said, stifling a laugh. "Now pack your stuff and leave." "I'll leave, but not now. Give me some time." "How much? A week? A month?" Lena mocked. "No," Sarah replied, her eyes fixing on the elegant wall clock in the kitchen. "I'll be gone in 24 hours. They continued to mock her, oblivious to the fact that the house, the luxury cars, the company Julian managed, and every single dollar they enjoyed all belonged to Sarah. They had forgotten that without Sarah, Julian was nothing more than a simple nobody. The 24-hour countdown wasn't for her. The countdown was for them. Sarah Voss, turned away from the kitchen, leaving Julian Vance and Lena Voss still laughing at their own stupidity. She did not go to the master bedroom, which had been defiled. Her steps took her firmly toward her private home office, the only room in the Cypress Manor secured with a biometric security system. This room was her fortress, the command center from which she had built her kingdom. Sarah sat behind the large mahogany desk. Julian, a low-level manager she had allowed to present himself publicly as the successful husband, was actually just a figurehead director. The ultimate weaponry. Sarah retrieved the crucial documents that would be her ultimate weapon. Red folder, property deed. The deed for the Cypress Manor, confirming Serafina Voss was the only name on the house and the land. Blue folder, corporate structure. Articles of incorporation for the multinational parent company she founded and the subsidiary she entrusted Julian to manage. The documents clearly stated that 99% of the company's shares belonged to Sarah's parent company. Asset titles. Titles for the 5 luxury cars parked in the garage, including the Dodge Challenger Hellcat Julian always boasted about, all registered in Sarah's name. Prenuptial agreement. The agreement Julian signed 5 years prior, stipulating that in the event of divorce, all assets Sarah brought into the marriage and all assets proven to have been purchased by Sarah during the marriage would remain her property. Julian would get nothing. Sarah smiled coolly. The arrogance they displayed was based entirely on the assumption they controlled assets that were legally hers. Execution. The takedown begins. Sarah reached for her phone and dialed Mr. Alastair, her family's lawyer for decades. "Yes, counselor. A small domestic issue has arisen that needs resolution," Sarah stated with chilling calm. She issued her immediate instructions for the 9 a.m. deadline. "Asset recovery team. I would like you to bring an execution team to my house tomorrow morning, including a full security team. We will proceed with asset recovery. Termination. Also, prepare a termination letter for Mr. Vance." The termination was effective immediately and would be sent to the entire board of directors. Grounds for firing? The reason for termination was fraud and embezzlement. Sarah immediately sent files proving Julian had used company funds to buy Lena a luxury yacht and a penthouse in Miami. After securing all digital assets to new, secure accounts, Sarah packed a small emergency suitcase containing only essential documents and clothing. She did not take a single item from the tainted master bedroom. Sarah then left the house, ignoring the faint laughter of the traders downstairs. She drove through the night, not to a family member's house, but to the presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. That night, while Julian and Lena slept on a ticking time bomb in her house, Sarah slept soundly. The chirping of birds and the morning sun greeted Julian Vance and Lena Voss in the master bedroom of the Cypress Manor. They woke up arrogant and content, convinced Sarah Voss was gone, weeping over her old rags. They went downstairs with an arrogant stride, expecting to find an empty house. Instead, sitting calmly on the Italian leather sofa was Sarah, drinking coffee, looking fresh and poised in an elegant business suit that sharply contrasted with their own disheveled appearance. "My 24 hours are up," Sarah said coolly, setting down her mug, "but yours have just begun." As Julian angrily ordered her to get out, the doorbell rang insistently. Julian, still shirtless, answered the door with the arrogance of the homeowner. Facing him was Mr. Alastair, Sarah's lawyer, completely ignoring Julian's presence. Behind him stood 4 burly men in black suits, the security team, and a dozen people in blue uniforms, the professional moving team. "I am attorney Miguel Alastair of the Atlantic legal firm, and I am the legal representative of Mrs. Serafina Voss, the rightful owner of this property. Mr. Alastair stated, looking Julian up and down with disdain. "Rightful owner, this house is mine. I'm her husband," Julian cried nervously. Sarah, approaching slowly, cut him off. "Mr. Julian Vance and Miss Lena Voss, it has been demonstrated that you two have illegally occupied this property without the owner's permission." Mr. Alastair explained that the Cypress Manor was purchased by Mrs. Voss 3 years before the marriage and was 100% in her name. Sarah placed the thick red folder containing the property deed on the console, clearly displaying her name as the sole owner. "Do you see your name? Not even the electric bill is in your name, sweetheart." Julian's world collapsed. The systematic takedown. Mr. Alastair immediately began the asset recovery. Julian stumbled backward to the closet, pulling out expensive suits and silk shirts. Clothing/personal assets. Mr. Alastair held up his tablet. According to Mrs. Voss's credit card records, for the past 5 years, all this clothing was purchased with her funds. You cannot take it. Company assets. Julian then turned to his watch collection, claiming they were gifts from clients. Mr. Alastair countered. According to company records, all these gifts are registered as company assets purchased with the entertainment expense account. Julian was officially terminated from his position as director due to charges of embezzlement, effective 8 a.m. On the other side of the room, Lena, trying to steal, grabbed diamond necklaces and rings from Sarah's jewelry box. She was stopped by a female security guard. Sarah, leaning calmly against the doorframe, confirmed, "That robe she is wearing is mine. Take only the things you arrived at this house with." Lena's belongings amounted to a small, pathetic backpack. Downstairs, the final, ruthless act commenced. The roar of an engine was heard outside. A massive tow truck was hooking up Julian's beloved red Dodge Challenger Hellcat. "Stop! It's my car!" Julian screamed, running outside. Sarah's voice cut through the air. "Did you forget the paperwork? You said you bought it in my name to save on taxes." Julian had made the legal weapon that was now turned against him. The hour had ended. Julian Vance and Lena Voss were forcibly led to the tall iron gate of the Cypress Manor. Julian wore only his silk pajama bottoms and a tattered t-shirt. Lena, still in Sarah's crimson velvet smoking jacket, was a miserable contrast to her small, cheap backpack. The gate slammed shut behind them, sealing the end of everything. Neighbors jogging through the elite subdivision stared at the former director and his mistress, who now looked like 2 homeless lunatics who had just been evicted. Sarah, who had briefly reappeared, tossed a plastic bag containing a cheap floral print dress and yellow rubber flip-flops at Lena's feet, commanding her to take off my robe, it doesn't suit you. Sarah then turned and re-entered her fortress, the gate closing perfectly behind her. Julian, taking out his fury on Lena, screamed, "This is all your fault! You ruined everything! You told me my wife was a weak idiot!" Lena snapped back, arguing he was the one who promised her everything. With their last remaining cash, money Julian had intended for a tip, they managed to hail a taxi. Julian was heading to his last hope, his mother's house. This was the house Sarah had bought for his mother, Mrs. Vance, as a gift of filial devotion. They arrived at the large house in the suburbs of Marietta, Georgia. Mrs. Vance opened the door, her eyes widening in confusion at the sight of her disheveled son and Lena. Julian collapsed onto the living room sofa, playing the victim. "Mom, Sarah has been so cruel. She kicked us out. She took everything." Lena snapped back, arguing he was the one who promised her everything. Mrs. Vance did not react as they expected. Her face slowly turned red, not with sorrow, but pure fury. Slap! A loud, sharp slap echoed on Julian's cheek, turning his head. "You idiot! You stupid boy! Don't you have a brain?" Mrs. Vance shrieked. "Amani, Sarah is the bad guy, or are you the fool?" Mrs. Vance revealed her shocking complicity and her role as the true mastermind. "Do you think your mother is stupid? Do you think I didn't know where all the luxury you were enjoying came from? This house, my monthly allowance, the company you ran, all that was Amani's." She confessed that their plan was simple. You just had to please Amani, make her trust you. You served her, you let her work, and we enjoyed the results. Mrs. Vance lashed out at Lena, calling her a conniving little thing, and warned Julian, "You traded a diamond mine for a pebble. You were a parasite attached to a money tree, and you just chopped that tree down." Panic took over Mrs. Vance. "Ruined! They'll take this house away from me, too!" Mrs. Vance walked to the door and threw it wide open. "Out!" she screamed. "I don't care. Get out of here, both of you. Don't bring your problems into my house." The door slammed shut in their faces. Julian and Lena were back on the street, kicked out of their last refuge. Julian Vance and Lena Voss, now truly homeless and desperate, were walking aimlessly through the hot suburbs. Julian's last hope rested on the tech consulting firm, Synergy Dynamics, which he publicly directed. He arrogantly believed he still held power there, dismissing Sarah's firing as a mere bluff. With his final bit of cash, he managed to take a crowded, humiliating city bus to the financial district of downtown Atlanta. He dragged Lena behind him into the skyscraper lobby, attempting to assert his authority. The lobby humiliation. He demanded access to the executive elevator. The pretty receptionist looked awkward. "I'm sorry, sir. Your access card doesn't seem to be activated." Julian's voice echoed in the lobby. "Don't you know who I am? I'm the director." A security guard quickly approached. "You are no longer our boss, sir," the guard said firmly. "By order of management, you are prohibited from entering this building." At that moment, the devastating checkmate delivered by Sarah appeared on the large digital wall behind the reception desk. The announcement title stood out in red letters, "Official Statement." Below his photo, the text read, "Mr. Julian Vance has been dishonorably dismissed from his position as director following the discovery of company fund embezzlement and fraud." The statement was signed by Serafina Voss, chairwoman of the board of directors. Julian's legs gave out. It wasn't a bluff. It was real. The entire lobby was staring, whispering, and pointing. "It can't be! It's a conspiracy! Sarah framed me!" he cried, his voice desperate. As the final public scene unfolded, Mr. Allister, Sarah's lawyer, walked toward them with two men in police uniforms. "We are the police. You are being detained for further questioning regarding a complaint of fund embezzlement filed by Mrs. Serafina Voss," the officer stated. Julian resisted, trying to flee, but two building guards held him. The handcuffs clicked onto his wrists. Lena watched everything with terrified eyes. The man she thought would provide her with a life of luxury was now being handcuffed in the lobby of his own office building. The burden was too heavy. Lena collapsed, fainting onto the cold marble floor at the feet of the police officers. Julian was dragged away by the police and the security team, his screams echoing down the hall. He was taken into custody, awaiting trial for embezzlement and fraud. 2 days after Julian Vance was arrested in the lobby, Sarah Voss, returned to the Cypress Manor. A strong smell of disinfectant greeted her. She had hired a professional cleaning team, not just to clean, but to sanitize. She wanted to eliminate every trace of Julian and Lena Voss. Sarah walked through the house, which was now empty, spacious, and echoing. All the expensive furniture she had bought, the Italian leather sofa, the glass coffee table, the Persian rug, was gone, loaded up and donated to a charitable organization in her name. Strangely, Amani felt peace. The empty room felt much cleaner than when it was full of objects. She ordered a complete remodel. All the wallpaper would be stripped, and all linens, curtains, and even some built-in furniture that Lena might have touched would be dismantled and replaced. The master bedroom, tainted by adultery, would be converted into a larger library and private study, reclaiming the kingdom. Sarah's focus was now solely on her company, Synergy Dynamics. The news of Julian's dismissal had shaken the board. A meeting was called, and Sarah, sitting in the chairwoman's seat, looked at the tense directors. She pressed a button, and the enormous screen lit up, displaying a new business plan, a brilliant, audacious, and extremely detailed global expansion plan. For 1 hour, Sarah presented her vision without notes, mastering every figure, projection, and risk. The room fell silent. Mikhail Vance, a young, highly selective investor who had joined the board 3 months prior, spoke up. "I suspected as much," Mikhail said. "The brain of this company has always been you, Mrs. Voss." He announced his group would double their investment. It was an absolute victory. Sarah had officially reclaimed her rightful place. Mikhail later told her, "I'm impressed. You managed to take out the trash and polish the diamond at the same time." Sarah had successfully transitioned from the director's wife to the undeniable CEO and chairwoman of the board. The new complication. Meanwhile, Lena Voss, after collapsing in the lobby, was taken to a public hospital where she received devastating news. She was in the early stages of pregnancy. The hospital billed her, and she was discharged without insurance. Sarah's lawyer, Mr. Allister, called with the update. Miss Voss was taken to a public hospital. It has been confirmed that she is in the early stages of pregnancy. Sarah fell silent for a moment. Pregnant with Julian's child, a new complication she hadn't foreseen. Mr. Allister confirmed that since Sarah was not a direct family member, the hospital couldn't obligate her to pay, and Lena had already been discharged. Sarah told the lawyer, "Let it go. That child was the result of their actions, not her responsibility." Her focus was solely on her company. 6 months passed quickly. For Sarah Voss, it was a period of victorious rebuilding, solidifying her leadership at Synergy Dynamics. For Julian Vance, it was 6 months spent in the cold of a jail cell, awaiting his final sentencing. Meanwhile, Lena Voss's descent was brutal and swift. After fainting in the lobby, she had been released from the hospital with a massive bill and no home. She was immediately rejected by Julian's mother, Mrs. Vance, who screamed at her, "Don't you dare try to link yourself to our family. My son is in jail because of you, bad luck woman." Lena was then rejected by her own mother, who screamed, "If you behave like trash, you are no longer my daughter. Don't bring this disgrace into my house." Kicked out for the 3rd time, Lena was completely alone. For weeks, Lena lived on the streets, sleeping in bus stations and eating from charity or garbage bins. Her initial job as a dishwasher in a crowded, dingy bar ended quickly when the owner fired her due to her pregnancy. Lena's karma reached its peak in this degradation. One day, a small television above the bar was showing an interview with Sarah Voss. Sarah looked stunning, a true leader, with the headline reading, Serafina Voss, CEO of the Fortress Group, a leader in the business world. The glass Lena was holding shattered. The last plea. The trial finally ended. Julian Vance was found legally and factually guilty of embezzlement and money laundering, sentenced to 10 years in federal prison at a $5 million fine. During the launch of Sarah's charitable Kemet Foundation, a huge event in Washington, D.C., the final act of the past appeared. Lena Voss, miserable and ragged, carrying a thin baby of a few months, pushed through the security cordon. She collapsed on her knees at Sarah's feet. "Sister Serafina, I'm sorry." Sister Lena sobbed, tearfully pointing to the child. "Help me, sister. Not for me. For this child. This child is Julian's. He's sick. He needs milk." Sarah looked at her for a long time. There was no anger, only an empty gaze, as if her work was already done. She signaled her assistant, took out a checkbook, and wrote a figure large enough to secure a modest rental apartment and start a small business. "This is not for you. It's for this child," Sarah said, crouching down. She tore off the check. "Listen to me first. After tonight, don't ever appear before me again. Don't ever mention my name again. Don't ever beg me again. Consider me dead." Sarah placed the check in Lena's dirty hand. "This money is my charity, Lena, not my forgiveness." Lena prostrated herself, kissing the floor in gratitude, and hobbled away, clutching her son and her final chance. Sarah had paid all the debts of the past. She had given one last alms to close the book. Now she was truly free. Keon arrived at the Nema Foundation penthouse, his appearance disheveled but his spirit desperate. He was led to the large, glass-walled office where Amara sat, her eyes cold, calm, and sharp, no longer full of love, only calculation. "Mr. Sterling, please sit down," Amara said formally. She reviewed his dossier. "The diagnosis of an aggressive and progressive autoimmune disease. Need for funds of $1.8 million. The amount is correct." She then detailed his debt status. "A total of $1.3 million. Very impressive. You managed to squander so much money in just 1 year." Keon collapsed, begging, "Amara, I was wrong. I was arrogant. Mr. Sterling, I am not interested in your apologies. That has no value in this business proposal." She looked at him steadily. "Your application has been approved." Keon gasped with relief, but Amara delivered the chilling, non-negotiable price. "The foundation will cover the entirety of the $3.1 million investment, $1.8 million for the surgery in Singapore, and $1.3 million to pay off your mortgage, car loan, and all your consumer debt. This is not a gift or charity. It is a grant and an employment contract. The foundation will seize all assets as collateral, the Sterling Heights penthouse and the Mercedes C-Class vehicle. Keon and his mother, Victoria Thorne, had until tonight to pack. Exclusive dedication. The total investment requires you to be under an exclusive dedication contract for 28 years. Remote assignment. You will be assigned to our service clinic in a small town in the Mississippi Delta, an 8-hour drive from the city. Keon signed the contract, his hand trembling violently, sealing his fate. The aftermath. Eviction. 2 days later, Victoria Thorne was forcibly evicted from the penthouse. She was taken to a small, suffocating rental apartment on the outskirts of the city, whose first 3 months of rent were paid by the foundation. Keon's new life. Keon underwent the successful surgery in Singapore, but returned to the U.S. as an asset owned by the foundation. He was assigned to the service clinic in the Mississippi Delta, where he had to treat coughs, colds, and assist with births with basic equipment. Amara's final gaze. 6 months later, Amara conducted an inspection at the clinic. She saw Keon, now tanned, his hand firm and gentle as he comforted a child. She looked at him with the gaze of a leader toward her employee. Good work, Dr. Sterling. Keep it up. You have 27.5 years left. Amara had won perfectly. She had not only recovered her money and taken revenge, but she had destroyed Keon's arrogant life and rebuilt it into her own version. A dedicated physician, not an arrogant husband. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.